So, you want to know how monks have changed in D&D 5.5. Whether you're making a new character or trying to port over an old one, I've combed over everything that's been changed so you don't have to. Your core traits have gotten noticeably better in all the most boring ways. You now get proficiency in all light martial weapons instead of just short bows. And while the starting equipment is different, the gold option ends up being twice as much value as the most expensive set from 5.0. Martial arts, Monk's most important feature, got buffed in basically every way possible. The big one is the damage die is one size larger, but you also gained dexterity-based grappling and shoving. Your monk weapon now includes all simple weapons and all light martial weapons, matching the new proficiencies, and they completely reworded the feature compared to how it was in 5.0, including making it the first feature in the book when it used to come after unarmed defense, which is also unchanged. Key has been renamed to Monk's Focus with focus points. You don't need to take the attack action to use Flurry of Blows anymore. Step of the Wind now lets you bonus action dash without spending a focus point. And if you do spend the focus, you get the old jump boost and can disengage with the same bonus action as the dash. But you also get disengage for free with Patient Defense, with the ability to add the old dodge effect to the bonus action for a focus point. Finally making Monk not feel like worse rogue in terms of speed. Unarmored movement is unchanged, aside from the wall running being its own feature now, acrobatic movement. You lost dedicate weapon from Tasha's, so light weapons are a real limitation. Instead, your third level 2 feature is Uncanny Metabolism, which lets you, once per day when you roll initiative, heal martial arts die plus monk level health, and regain all spent focus points, which is so good because Monk really did have a problem with burning out in like 2 turns. Doubly so when dashing around had a point cost. Deflect attacks used to be deflect missiles, but as the name would suggest, it now works on melee attacks, along with no longer having a short range when you do use it with missiles, which is less a deliberate change and more just a result of it being a dex save now instead of an attack roll. And you always do 2 martial die plus dex damage instead of the vague implication that you do the same damage as the attack. Key fueled attacks from Tasha's is gone, let no one weep for it. Slow fall is unchanged. Quickened healing, also from Tasha's, is also gone. Stunning strike has been changed to be both more fun to use and less frustrating for the DM, and no, they didn't do it by getting rid of the stun effect. It's been changed so it lasts until the start of your next turn, and you can only do it once per turn instead of just spamming the shit out of it until it works. Which isn't that bad actually, because now it always works, at least a little bit. The target speed is halved and the next attack against them has advantage if they pass the save, and of course stunning them if they fail. No more big bads getting chain stunned for 3 turns, but also no wasting half your key to do sweet fuck all. Focused aim from Tasha's is, shockingly enough, gone. Key empowered strikes lost the key part of the name, and now lets your unarmed strikes do force damage instead of just making them count as magic. Evasion is basically unchanged, though you can't get the effect of your incapacitated anymore. Heightened focus is a new feature that buffs all of your focus options that cost a point. Flurry of Blows gives you an extra attack, Patient Defense gives temp health, and Step of the Wind lets you pick someone up and bring them with you. And they bothered to clarify that they also don't provoke opportunity attacks, which I don't think was strictly necessary, but is definitely going to prevent a lot of fights anyways. Stillness of Mind and Purity of Body were fused into Self-Restoration, which comes 3 levels after Stillness and only lets you end poison conditions instead of making you immune to them. But it happens for free at the end of your turn instead of needing an action, and lets you forego food and drink without getting exhausted, which used to come from Timeless Body. You lost Tongue of Sun and Moon and instead get Deflect Energy, which very simply lets you use deflect attacks on any attacks regardless of what damage type it does. Yes, even Psychic, which makes it just a buffed version of the same feature from Astral Self, which didn't get updated to 5.5 anyway, so JoJo fans can kick rocks, I guess. Disciplined Survivor replaced Diamond Soul, but it's just a name thing and is otherwise unchanged. Timeless Body is gone, though you're only really losing the immunity to magical aging since there's no mechanical penalty for aging, and it already lost the food and drink thing to Self-Restoration. In its place, you get the new Perfect Focus. If you don't use Uncanny Metabolism on initiative to regain all your focus points, you go up to 4 focus points anyways, which isn't flashy, but does do what the old Capstone did, except you don't need to have literally 0 points left to do it. And it's also, 5 levels sooner. Superior Defense replaced Empty Body. You keep the resistance to everything, and it costs 1 less, but doesn't turn you invisible, ends when incapacitated, and worst of all, doesn't let you astral project anymore. Epic Boon is always a buff, and your new capstone is Body and Mind, which is just the Barbarian capstone but for monks. Dexterity and Wisdom get +4 to a max of 25. For the subclasses, 5.5 only has 4 per class, which means that Astral Self, Ascended Dragon, Drunken Master, Kensei, Long Death, and Sun Soul are missing. Which is especially bad on Monk because it had so many iconic subclasses, which you can still play, even though Astral Self just lost one of its features, since WotC is still pushing the idea that this game is fully backwards compatible. And before we cover the ones that did make it into 5.5, a reminder that we're only halfway through the classes, and with a channel my size, subscribing is really the only way to make sure you'll catch the next half. Anyway, Warrior of Mercy, oh yeah, also they changed Way of to Warrior of, is almost completely unchanged. Implements of Mercy don't force you into a mask now, though they are still very much part of the expected flavor. Hands of both Harm and Healing are unchanged, besides Healing being a magic action now, which didn't exist in 5.0 and barely qualifies as more than a wording change. Physician's Touch is unchanged, but boy, it didn't look it at first. This feature is what sent me on the spiral that eventually made me realize that disease is just counted under the poison condition now, which I hate, and I hate so much more because they don't actually say that anywhere. And this is already the longest video by far, and this really isn't a monk thing, so I have to save this rant for the extra content on Patreon. Or maybe a short if there's a lot of demand for it, let me know. But yeah, the doctor feature can't cure disease anymore, but actually yes it can. Moving on to Flurry of Healing and Harm. Both of the effects are limited to wisdom number of times per day now, which was very obviously, very literally tacked on to the end of the old version when someone realized that focus points are way more available now. And Hand of Ultimate Mercy doesn't have any changes written, but that means it can still cure poison, and since WotC decided that's close enough to disease, that's something it cures now too. Warrior of Shadows got changed a fair bit, losing like 2.5 of its 4 features. Shadow Arts lost all the spells that weren't Minor Illusion or Darkness, though you can see through that darkness now, which is actually really important. And you gain 60 feet of bonus dark vision, so losing that as a spell isn't really a loss, unlike Pass Without Trace. Shadow Step is the one feature that didn't get changed, with Cloak of Shadows becoming the level 17 feature, and Opportunist being replaced completely with improved Shadow Step. Now you can spend a focus point to teleport regardless of light level, and you can make an arm strike as part of the bonus action. No, it is not clear whether or not you need to spend the focus point or to get the attack, but I think so. Finally, Cloak of Shadows, beyond being moved to level 17, was reworked heavily, costing 3 focus points now and only lasting for a minute until incapacitated or until you end your turn in bright light. Which, that part is actually a huge buff from when any bright light would instantly end the effect. Even better is staying invisible while attacking, and being able to use Flurry of Blows for free while it's up. Being able to move through people as a half ghost is just a cherry on top at this point. Warrior of the Elements is, I guess, technically a new subclass, since otherwise it would be 4 elements. And it doesn't have the old features, only new ones, so it really is all new. But it's clearly the elemental one and sucks almost as bad as the old one did, so I can't bring myself to care. The only things you get level 3 are the worst cantrip since True Strike and the one that took Mold Earth from us, the ability to punch 10 feet further away, the ability for your punches to deal acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage, and if you do one of those, you can try pushing or pulling the target 10 feet. Which, and I really hate to do this again, is wrong for too many reasons to cover here. So I'll only focus on how bludgeoning damage from Big Rock is one of the only elemental things you can do that doesn't knock people around or force a strength save. Elemental Burst is just worse Fireball in every possible way, other than damage type variety, I guess. But like shit, bad Fireball is still Fireball. Stride of the Elements gives you both a fly and swim speed while your elemental attunement is up. And Elemental Epitome gives you resistance to one of the damage types I mentioned before, which you can switch at the end of your turn for free. 20 feet of extra movement when you use Step of the Wind, while doing tiny chip damage to enemies you move within 5 feet of. And you do an extra martial arts die of damage once per turn. All while elemental attunement is up, of course. Warrior of the Open Hands, Open Hand techniques all got unique names, and the order got shifted around but is otherwise unchanged. Wholeness of body is still a heal, but now it heals you martial arts die plus wisdom as a bonus action, a wisdom modifier a number of times per day. Tranquility is gone. It was cool, but a feature that only works if you don't ever attack is pretty bad. And the new fleet step, letting you use Step of the Wind at the end of literally any other bonus action, is pretty good and really funny. Quivering Palm now only ever does massive, stupid, large damage instead of just fucking killing the target, and costs an extra focus to use, but only takes an attack to trigger the damage instead of a full action. And 4 focus for a 30 to 65 damage punch is still pretty damn good, especially with Monk's much more abundant supply of focus points, especially when it still has no use limit. But moving on to the final rating for the changes, 8.5 out of 10. And every bit of that is because of elements, because the only other complaint I have is the disease thing, and that is not Monk's fault. All the other subclasses feel so good. The older ones, not you, got buffs they pretty badly needed that still fit the subclass perfectly. The numerous changes to base Monk not only make it function like it never has, it straight up thrives now in all the ways it was always meant to. And Elemental Monk was the worst subclass in the fucking game before, so it only being really disappointing now isn't the worst thing, I guess. But let me know what you think. Have you already gone to grab the old improved 4-element homebrew? Or are you trying to pretend that your avatar-style firebender only getting a push effect is fine, actually? And if you want to hear a more detailed breakdown of the changes, including all the rants I didn't have time for here, or just want to see the Paladin video a week early, I wouldn't blame you. And both are available on my Patreon, where you can also get your name up at the end of videos and streams to prove you invested early, and get secret updates on what's going on behind the scenes. But enough shilling, it makes me feel gross. Till next time, take care of yourself out there, take care of each other, and bye-bye.